Hi, I'm David Levin, and this is Pop Goes the Culture. Today, the second part of my conversation with the forever gorgeous and charming Barbara Eden, the one and only Jeannie of I Dream of Jeannie. In part one, we talked about how she got the part and some untold stories about the show. Today, the truth about Jeannie's sister. Jeannie meets Lucy, Barbara goes to the moon, and the reunion everyone wanted, what happened when Barbara met JR.
So Sidney Sheldon, Larry, and I, and Hayden Rourke, the cast, were on these catwalks up above all these training centers, and we were specifically told, do not get off the catwalk. It's a big no-no. We watched the men in the water tank training, and as I was walking, I heard, Barbara, come on down here. And I looked down, I said, I can't come down. And the guide who was with us looked at me, he says, if he says come down, you can go down. And it was one of the astronauts, and I went down, and he put me in the capsule they had, and he said, okay, Barbara, you're going to land on the moon. Well, he didn't tell me what to do, though. You know, I just crashed, is what I did. But what an experience, what a lovely, lovely memory.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it really made Jeannie of its time, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And as a matter of fact, I think because of the space program being a very strong theme in I Dream of Jeannie, I think that's why it's so timely now. I mean, this show is all over the world, and I'm shocked. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the fact that it's a show that we're all in uniform, and it has a timely theme. It isn't old. We're still thinking about going up there, you know.
And it's interesting, that whole sort of magic versus technology thing going on.
Yes, magic versus technology. That's a great way to put it, because that's it exactly.
You have this logical, technological astronaut, and you have this freewheeling genie, all about the magic, and she loosens him up, and he sort of brings her down to earth a little bit.
Think he ever loosened? I don't think so.
He must have loosened at some point. You guys got married.
You think he ever brought her down to earth? I don't think so.
Did he ever send her to the moon?
He couldn't. She tried to go with him. He wouldn't let her.
Why do you think he finally gave in to her, this magical creature?
Because they wrote it that way.
You weren't into that whole thing.
I was not. I'm sorry. I just think it was a huge mistake. Yes.
Do you think this show would have continued if you guys hadn't gotten married on the show?
I don't know if it would have continued. I think it would have had a better chance of continuing. But you realize then 5 shows meant a lot of money for the studio. And they could strip them and sell them, which they have done, you know, over and over and over and over again. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
How much of your life have you spent discussing Mabels at this point?
Too much.
Yeah, I bet. You know, I wanted to be the one guy who didn't ask you about that. I'm just like, you know.
You have to. You know, for so many years, I wasn't even interviewed about Jeannie because I did so many other things. Mostly movies for television for like, 20 years. And so it didn't come up. And now I talk about it a lot. In fact, I went to South America for Turner Networks, and they're showing Jeannie with their classic movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, down in South America. So Zach and I, my friend, went down to Buenos Aires and Brazil and Chile, Mexico. We went to Uruguay. We had a good time.
Isn't it great down there?
It's wonderful. What's really wonderful, the people are so appreciative. And it makes you feel like you've really done something important, you know?
Well, you know what, you have. I mean, it seems like nothing at the time, but it does. I mean, it has an impact on people, whether you realize it or not.
Well, it's given people some happiness, I think, and that's important.
Certainly me.
Good.
Whenever my parents would take us out on Saturday night when I was that age, back when Jeannie first came on the air, I'm like, no, I'm not going. Have to watch Jeannie.
Okay.
At the time that Jeannie was on several times, we were married at the time to Michael and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
We worked with him on the show.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? Because he came on several times in different roles, correct?
Michael And Sarah, my husband at that time, yes, he came on I Dream of Jeannie several times. He directed one of the episodes. I think it's always, I was always very proud of Mike because he's so talented and very good at what he does, you know. But when you're very emotional about someone, you tend to be, or I do, like a mother chicken. You know, I think my heart was in my mouth all the time. And when he did other films and things, I always, you know, didn't feel that way, but I always wanted him to be and do the best. And of course he was good. He was the blue gin. He was ferocious as the blue gin, yeah.
And yet, the producers found a way to let you plant one on him in the last season.
Oh, he played an officer. Yes, he played an officer. That's right. Yeah, that was fun.
And Jeannie's sister. Do you want to sort of walk me through that? And how did that? Was that something that you wanted to have happen, or it was kind of cool?
I don't remember.
You got to do that.
I don't remember this at all. What?
Well, he played an officer. And
yeah.
Jeannie's sister pretended to be Jeannie, and she said she's having an affair with this guy, and she was going to leave Tony, and so he thought that he was in love with Jeannie, and he was in love with Jeannie's sister.
Oh, I
see. So there was one major kiss, and I remember thinking when I was a kid, like, how can she do that? But then I found out that you were.
Where is my husband?
Yeah, of course.
Well, darling, you know, every time that little twit came around, I had to pick her up and do something about her. That was, I loved playing Bad Jeannie. I loved it. She was fun. Not only that, it was fun. I've been a blonde all my life. I think I did one film with dark hair. That was The Seven Faces of Dr. Lau at MGM. And this was the second time in Jeannie when I was able to wear the dark hair, and it was fun. I had a good time.
Be evil.
Oh yeah, it changes your whole personality.
I know. Well, Jeannie had a way of speaking that was very precise and very sort of...
Yes.
And that was something you did deliberately?
Yes.
Talk to me about it. Can you talk to me
Yes,
about
it did. Well, at the beginning, there were to be no contractions. Jeannie was always speaking very clearly and because English wasn't her language. So they wanted her to be different, and I think they were right. That wasn't my idea. I think it was Gene Nelson's idea. But it served me well, because it gave her a definite character. Yeah, and she was very proper. As opposed to her sister, who just went right into the slang and the, you know, and was not proper at all.
Very funny stuff.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you something, and now I've forgotten what I was going to ask you next.
Good.
I'm taking abuse already. Okay, then. Let's move on a little bit.
All right.
Actually, let's move backwards a little bit, because you were on I Love Lucy. Talk about I Love Lucy at some point. Please tell me about I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy.
You must have been 5 at the time?
Actually, 2.5.
2.5.
When I appeared on I Love Lucy, it was my 3rd job down here in Hollywood. And I had 2 other appearances on comedy shows with women who were the stars of the show. And one of them was a very bad experience. Because I guess she just didn't want me around at all. So by the time I got to Lucy's show, I decided I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to be very quiet, do my lines, and get out, you know. And what a joy she was. She was so good to me. She'd take my face and say, honey, get that pretty little face in the camera. Things like that, which the other woman didn't want my face toward the camera and would never talk to me directly, would talk, turn her around, I mean, like that. And I was going, whoa, what am I doing? But Lucy was the opposite, absolute opposite. She when I had the costume on, she told me to come over to her dressing room, and she said, do you like that? And I said, it's fine. It's fine. It's wonderful. And she said, take it off. So I went back and I took it off, not knowing what was wrong. And she and her friend sat there and put sparkly things on it, grommets, all during rehearsals to make it look better.
Oh my gosh.
She was a jewel. And at the end of the show, not at the end, it was during the show, she asked me what I was doing, and she said that she would like to put me under contract. She said she had never worked with a pretty girl who could be funny, and she said, I'm going to start a group here, which she did. And that was the very day that 20th Century Fox called me and said they picked up my option. So I went to Fox instead of being with Lucy. And I've often wondered what would have happened if, you know.
Did you ever get to talk to her again after that point?
Years later.
What was that encounter like?
It was nice, but you know, I don't know if she remembered. I did. But yes, I did, and she appreciated me telling her. But a lot of water had gone under the bridge, you know. She'd lost her second husband, and but she was a dear, sweet person. She was really wonderful to work for and with.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
That is nice. See, that's the story. I like that stuff. It doesn't have to be. You know, if she kicked you off the set, and it was like, you know.
No, I didn't tell you about it.
I think you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. but
But she ended up playing a car now, didn't she?
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're showing your belly button, and she's showing her rear bumper. So,
which was rather large.
which was rather large and from 1928, so.
Oh, she was so mean, God. I know, she's not with us anymore, is she?
She's come back as a car, though.
Yeah, but that was, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
Well, it's nice to hear that Lucy was,
And
was a generous.
And you know who else? Janice Page. That was the second show I did. And she was a delight.
What show was that?
Always Jan.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Came and went, hasn't been.
Yeah, but she was a great gal.
Wow.
She's just wonderful.
Then you went on.
To Fox.
To Fox.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it's okay. Now we're going to skip ahead again. We're going to skip past Jeannie.
Actually, do you want a Johnny Carson story?
Yeah. Give me a Johnny Carson story.
Well, I guess the first acting job I did in Hollywood was with Johnny Carson. He had a show called the Johnny Carson Hour at CBS. Now, no one, I think, even knows about this show. I've been watching all the tapes since he passed away, and they never mention this particular show. It was a summer replacement for Red Skelton. And it was an hour comedy show. And my agent had called me and said, they want a sexy blonde for this part, so wear something sexy and go over there, and you'll get it. And so I put this dress on, you know, with the spaghetti straps and low neck and tight dress, and it was a very, very cold day, so I had this coat around. And I walked into CBS and gave my name, and they sent me up to the room. And I got up there, and I was too embarrassed to take my coat off because I felt like it was so deliberate, you know. So I never took the coat off and didn't get the job. And my agent said, "What happened?" And I said, "I couldn't take my coat off." They didn't ask me to take it off either, you know, but I just couldn't take it off. It seemed so stupid to me at the time. So the next week he called and he said, "Now look, you have another chance at this." He said, "Go over and take your coat off." So what I did was, before I ever walked into the studio, I took the coat off. So I wouldn't look like I was shedding, you know, my coat, and carried it in, and I got the part.
Excellent. I knew you would. Let's talk about Harper Valley PTA. Because it was a funny little show, came and went, and you were great in it, and very different than Jeannie.
Harper Valley PTA was a great movie. You know, it was an independent feature, and made a lot of money for the people that backed it. I loved doing the movie. I just loved it. And then NBC bought it for the series, and we did 2 years of the series. I don't think they could find out exactly what they wanted to do with it. you know.
How about what brought you to Dallas?
Oh, what brought me to Dallas? I guess Larry. Yes, Larry brought me to Dallas. I played Leanne de la Vega, who got him good. I mean, she ruined him. I guess he'd gotten her pregnant in college or something. This is, and then abandoned her, and he'd forgotten who she was when she came in on the scene. She'd married De La Vega, who had oil money in South America, and so she came in and really did him dirt.
Sucked it to him.
Yeah, but he deserved it.
Apparently he did.
Oh yeah.
Apparently he deserved everything he got in that show.
He'd changed a lot since I knew him, you know.
A little shocking, but so did you, I guess, since he knew you.
That's true. That's true.
What was it like working with him again? Was it the same? Did you fall right into it? Was it a whole new thing?
Different dynamics, of course, you know, but it was very odd. The first day was, it was a little strange. First of all, strange because I was in a pink suit. They put me in a little pink suit, and I walked out of an elevator, and Larry was across the room, and the first take, we started out, and he said, "Oh my God, cut!" He said, "I can't believe this. Deja vu." He said, "Wait a minute, who am I? Who am I? Where am I?" You know, it was fun. And then we got on with it.
He didn't do the Jeannie movies. I know you probably talked this one to death. But...
No, Larry didn't do the Jeannie movies. The first time he was asked. That's when Wayne Rogers did the part. But Larry was working very hard on Dallas at the time, and that's the only time they had to go on a vacation. And I understand that. And apparently it was the only time they could shoot this film, too. So that's why that was...
And then the next time they sent Tony into space.
Yeah. Yeah, he probably asked for too much money. I don't know what happened that time.
Well, and then you made one more. Your last appearance as Jeannie was in the Brady Bunch movie. Is that correct?
Oh, that's right. I was Jeannie on the Brady Bunch movie. I'd forgotten. Yes.
How did that happen?
They asked me to do it, and I did. It was fun. It was fun. I had a good time.
That's funny because you get that sort of Sidney Sheldon, Sherwood Schwartz confusion that goes on. So it's like,
yeah, Sherwood Schwartz is wonderful. He has a fabulous imagination. He really has a finger on the pulse of what people enjoy and want.
And so did Sidney Sheldon, apparently.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've read any of his books.
Yeah. Yeah, well, his background was very interesting also. I mean, going from doing some of those movies.
Oh, yeah. Sidney won an Academy Award for The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer. Cary Grant, was it Shirley Temple?
Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
Have you kept any memorabilia from your shows?
Oh, I have my bottle.
Where do you keep it?
I keep it in our library. I retreat there every once in a while.
Into the bottle.
Oh, into the bottle when I need it, yes. I also have a Jeannie outfit, which was made for me for the Lexus commercial I did. I don't know if you saw that. That was the last time I played Jeannie, I think, was in that Lexus commercial. And I've worn it. And as a matter of fact, I wore it a couple of years ago at Lonnie Anderson's house for Halloween. We had a good time.
Nice. Yeah. And you also did Jeannie on a thing called Storybook Squares way back when. Do you remember that?
No.
There was Hollywood Squares, which was Peter Marshall's show, and then for kids they did a thing called Storybook Squares.
Oh.
And different people came in, like Jim Backus came dressed as Mr. Magoo, and I remember you came on as Jeannie.
Must have been when we were filming Jeannie then. Yeah, because I don't remember it at all.
Well, this is all fantastic. Is there anything that I've missed? Any good stories that you've been dying to tell?
Any stories with Bob Hope?
Oh God! I mean, I've got elephants.
Groucho Marx.
Groucho. Yeah.
That came from out of nowhere. How did that happen?
It did. That was, I think, a job I got through the Studio Club. It was just one little thing, wasn't it? How do you remember that?
I don't know.
That was before I got an acting job, I think. When I did like a little stand-up piece with him, didn't I? Yeah.
And he came on Jeannie at one point.
Oh, he came on Jeannie, yeah. But I was thinking of years before. Yeah. Oh yes. No. Sydney was well loved by all the friars and the comics, in town. In fact, I think that's how I got the job. When I think back, I didn't just get it because he had a cup of tea with me. I think probably people I'd worked with, like on the Johnny Carson show, and I did How to Marry a Millionaire with Nat Perrin, and it was a friend of his. And I think really that's how I got the part.
Your reputation preceded you. Well, I've gone through everything I've got here, and I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome. It was fun.
You have got to love Barbara Eden. And if you haven't read her bio, Jeannie Out of the Bottle, I urge you to pick up a copy. Good reading, and even more stories. That's it for today. We'll see you next time on Pop Goes the Culture TV.